Welcome to the second episode of the series. In the previous episode, we completed a successful orbit around Kerbin, and for that I believe we deserve a little reward. This nice plaque. In today's episode, we shall equip ourselves with the knowledge needed to complete a successful mission to the Moon and back. This is the next step of our space program, and literally our Apollo 11. So, let's get started. What is the Moon? The Moon is one of two naturally occurring satellites orbiting Kerbin. Resembling Earth's moon, this rocky satellite has no atmosphere and consists of 50 shades of grey. It is a desolate landscape littered by craters left behind from meteor strikes. The Moon is approximately 1/3 the size of Kerbin, with an equatorial radius of around 200,000 meters. The highest point of this celestial object reaches an altitude of 7,061 meters, and its lowest point being at minus 247 meters. But don't let the bland grey landscape fool you. You see, with each major crater being its own designated biome, the Moon houses a total of 17 biomes, which can give us a lot of science in the early game. Fun fact, the Moon has the most biomes of any celestial body in the Kerbal system, with Kerbin coming in at second, having only 11 biomes. But why the Moon? Well, again, not only is it our closest celestial neighbor, it is also the body that has the simplest orbit. If you look at the bottom right of the screen, you will see an orbit with an eccentricity of 0, making it a circular orbit. If we increase the eccentricity of the orbit, it becomes more elliptical. Say we take Kerbin here, then observe the planet's rotation. We notice that it has no axial tilt compared to the Earth that has around 23.3 degrees. This means that Kerbin does not experience any seasons. Understanding Kerbin's orbit helps us understand the Moon's orbit. By locating the planet's equator and its north pole, we can create a frame of reference for ourselves. If we add a plane through the planet's equator that stretches out to the Moon, we see that its orbital eccentricity is 0, which tells us that the Moon's orbit is perfectly aligned with Kerbin's equator at all times. Also, a quick tip, the Kerbal Space Center is located just by the equator, giving us an easier launch alignment. Now, time for the game plan. Mission 1. We take off from Kerbin, make our way to the Moon, orbit, and head back. Total delta V, around 6,500. Mission 2. Much like Mission 1, except we land on the Moon and take off again after. Total delta V for this mission, around 7,500. For the first part of our journey, we start off by doing a flyby of the Moon, seeing how close we can get, and collecting the signs of its low altitude. We do this so our ground mission only has to focus on ground science. We send a single crewed rocket with science experiments on this journey, the experiments being liquid goo, atmosphere, temperature, and the Science Junior. We take off and do the procedure to get into orbit, only this time our orbit will be set to 100 kilometers. Once in a stable orbit, pressing the M button, we go into the map menu. There we set our target as the Moon and add an orbital maneuver by clicking on the orbital path shown. Within our orbital maneuver, we can manipulate several features of our orbit. The Moon having the orbit it has, we only have to manipulate the apogee and perigee of our orbit. We increase our orbit to around 9,000 kilometers. The MM in the window stands for megameters, or 1 million meters, or 1,000 kilometers per megameter. As our spacecraft hurtles to the distant satellite, we take one final look at Kerbin before setting our sights to the Moon. And after that, we slow ourselves down one more time to set the intended orbital path for this mission, taking us around 7,500 meters from the surface of this moon. As we follow our flight path, we come so close to Kerbin's distant relative that we can almost touch it. Yet, we have the mission at hand. We collect ourselves and we collect the science. Once complete, we increase our orbits to return to Kerbin. On return to Kerbin, things go a little wrong. We lose all reactive control of our spacecraft and can only control via our thrusters. Luckily, our crew is alive and well. So I have some mods on this playthrough, and for some reason I keep losing control of the spacecraft after a certain time. Hence the hasty maneuvers seen here in the video, or so I tell myself. Luckily now the issue is fixed, so everything runs smoothly. It was just a conflict regarding a few mods. But to be honest, I kind of like the idea of random failures or failures happening for the spacecraft. Makes things a little more interesting, a little more spicy. We make the best of our very aggressive re-entry and still manage to land, even though precariously. Sadly, we lose 2 of our experiments along the way, but not all is lost. We make a staggering 137 science. For our Monday mission, I had 2 ideas for lander designs. The first one was inspired by Blue Origin's lunar lander for the Artemis 5 mission. The design is practical in the sense that we can have a lot of fuel with us for the mission and have our capsule still close to the ground. The other one was going to be a very vertical lander, so the opposite, meaning that we have quite a long way down from our capsule. The main reason for the first design was that we would be closer to the ground and more stable, because for some reason Kerbals discovered spaceflight before discovering the concept of ladders, meaning that we would, with the second lander, have to exit it without ladders to get off or on, which would be very impractical. Unfortunately, we currently lack the thrusters with the right specific impulse for such a mission, so we had to go for design option 2. Great, now for the next mission, the landing. And after a successful landing, we precariously exit our space. We then proceed to precariously exit our... Can it even get up again? Yes, it worked. Right, so after a smooth landing and exit, we conduct some ground science, plant a flag, and snap a nice picture for the tabloids. Now let's get out of here. We smoothly enter the lander, conduct science, and take off. Now liftoff is easier from the Mun. Luckily, we need very little energy. As a matter of fact, we only need a delta V of 860 meters per second. We make our heading back to Kerbin and proceed to re-enter. Sadly, during re-entry, we lose our liquid goose experiments again. But all is not lost with this, for we make almost 500 science. One cannot complain. Also, now I feel bad for having used staggering for the previous 134 science. This was a successful mission indeed. For the next episode, we will attempt a journey to Minmus, Kerbin's second moon. Stay tuned.